In this video, I'm going to try to make you a better chess player in 10 minutes. Now, chess is a very complex and difficult game, and it takes a lifetime to become the best in the world, but most of us don't want to become a world champion. Instead, we just want to beat all of our friends, and we want to climb up the rankings on chess.com. And if that applies to you, then you clicked on the right video, because in this video, I'm going to be showing you and telling you all the essential things you need to know to be able to do that. Now, before we get into the video, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Geology. Geology is a company that specializes in personalized skincare for everyone. They have a big range of things from different skincare products such as face washes, face creams, moisturizers, but they also have sunscreens, shampoos, conditioners, body washes, and well, pretty much anything skin related you can think of. One of their coolest things though is that they provide a 30-second quiz you can take where they ask you different questions about your skin so that you get the best skincare for your skin type. They also offer a skincare trial that is super easy to use and has some of their biggest skincare essentials. Right now, for a limited time, they have an amazing offer going on. With code ANNA70, you can get 70% off your brand new skincare trial plus up to 50% off any add-ons. So make sure you check out the link in the description box down below, and let's get back to the video. All right, let's start with the basics. So a chessboard has 64 squares and 32 pieces, and each side has 16 pieces. White always starts the game, and the purpose of the game is to checkmate your opponent's king, which means attacking the king and the king not being able to move anywhere. The king is trapped. Now, you can categorize a chess game into 3 different parts: the opening, which is the start of the game, the middle game, which is literally the middle of the game, and the end game, which is the end of the game. This is very self-explanatory. And I'll be going through the most essential things in each of those parts, because to become better at chess, you need to improve in each and every one of those parts. If you're really amazing at the end game, but you suck at openings, you're going to lose before you get to go to the end game. It's going to be very sad. So you got to know some few essential things in each part of the game. Let's start with the opening. In the opening, the most important thing to know is that 1, you need to develop your pieces ASAP. And with pieces, I mean your minor pieces. You want to develop your bishops and knights very quickly, and then you want to get your king into safety by castling. You should not move your queen out very early and have the queen roam around the board doing stuff alone, because the queen is a powerful piece, but it's not so powerful when it's just by itself. You want to wait before you get the queen out. So you should play an opening that will allow you to get your pieces out very quickly, but you should also play an opening that will allow you to take a lot of center, which means these 4 squares of the board. The reason you want to get a lot of center is because you want to open up paths for all of your pieces. If you're able to, for instance, let me go ahead and show you here. If you're able to get both of your pawns to these 2 central squares, all of a sudden you've opened up the paths for both of these bishops, and bishops from both of these sides of the board will be controlling a lot of different squares of the board. You basically want to control as many squares, which means attacking those squares as possible, because that will leave less squares your opponent can go to, and you will be able to get more space. So you should have a couple of different ways you want to get your pieces out that you can just remember, and you can just, know like really quickly. Now, if you are rated under like 1800, basically, if you're not like really good at chess, I would just say do not study chess theory, okay? Do not go into YouTube or buy a book and study 20 moves of theory, because it's just not going to be what makes you gain rating. If you're at that level, you probably should focus more on understanding chess, like the game of chess, more than you should focus on memorizing different moves. So I would 100% recommend, if you're new to the game, to just understand how you want to develop your pieces very quickly. Now, I'll give you my own recommendation. If you're new, I would recommend you to play the London. I think the London system is a really good opening for beginners, because you get your pieces out very quickly, okay? And I'll show you what the London is. It's basically when you put your bishop over here. You get your pieces out really quickly. You get your bishops, knights, everything out. I'll show you exactly how it goes just so that you can see it, basically. But basically, the London goes something like this. So you're able to get your center very solidified with these pawns, but at the same time you develop your minor pieces. And I think that this is really good because it's a very simple thing to remember, and your pieces are going to be in squares where they are protected. Even this bishop, which is the piece that's furthest away from the starting line, aka typically the piece that's the most vulnerable, it's going to be protected by a pawn. So it's going to be extremely difficult for you to blunder one of these pieces. And let me tell you one thing. The number one way you are going to lose chess games if you're new is by blundering all your pieces. It's very easy to do. I mean, people at higher levels, they blunder their pieces too, but when you're new, it's very easy to completely forget about a piece that's undefended at a certain part of the board and then just say, whoops, that one fell, you know? So that's why always having your pieces in protected squares is really good, and the London allows you to do that. So I would recommend you to watch a video of the London system if you want to learn just a little bit, and it's going to be easy to remember. And then you're not going to have to think more about what you should play with the white pieces. And then you leave the opening over there. You just learn that and that's it. Now with the black pieces, what would I recommend? I would recommend if your opponent goes e4, which is one of the easiest, no, not one of the easiest, I'm kidding. One of the most common starting moves. That's what I was going to say. It's really not one of the easiest moves. It's one of the most common starting moves. I would recommend you to go for the Caracan. I think that's a great opening for beginners with black because you get the center, which is really important. You want to take control of the center, but at the same time, you open up the path for this bishop that sometimes can get very, 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 very blocked due to all of these pawns being on light squares. So the Caracan, I think it's great. You can watch a video about that too. And if your opponent starts with the queen pawn, because maybe they watched the Queen's Gambit and they're like, ooh, I'm going to go ahead and start playing the Queen's Gambit, I would recommend you to go for the Queen's Gambit declined, where you just simply kind of similarly as in the London, solidify the center by having all your pawns protecting the biggest pawn that's out there, and just develop all your pieces. And you can go ahead and watch a video of the Queen's Gambit declined as well. I think that all of these things, you know, you should go ahead and look at it a little bit more of that in depth. But after you've done that, great. Now you got the opening portion, you know, now you've learned how to start your chess games. Now you can go ahead and move on to the middle game. And typically we say that the middle game happens when, and I'm just going to make a few moves, so it's white to move. Typically we say that the middle game happens when you've developed all of your pieces. So let's say that something like this happens, you know, got a position like this. Now, both sides have developed all of their pieces. So all of the pieces are out, at least all of the minor ones. And the only thing that's left to get out is the queen and the rooks. And so in the middle game, I will tell you this straight up. If you're new to the game, number one most important thing is going to be to not blunder your pieces. I said it before, but it's going to apply to the middle game and the end game as well. Just do not blunder your pieces, which is very easy to say, obviously, but I'm going to give you a couple tips on how to not blunder them. Tip number one is to never place your piece in a square where it's undefended. For instance, if I would go with my bishop over here right now, you may say, oh, this move doesn't look so bad, but actually it's going to be really easy for me to blunder this piece because maybe my opponent, okay, maybe in this position it doesn't work, but let's say in a little bit, now that this bishop is defended, maybe my opponent will capture this pawn and I will forget to look over here because my eyes are all, you know, tied to the action. The action is in the center right now. And whenever I capture this pawn back, all of a sudden, I will lose my piece. Why did I lose it? Because I put it in a square where it was undefended. And I really think if you always put your pieces in defended squares, it's going to make it so much harder for you to blunder your pieces. Now, another really important thing to know in middle games is the idea of checks, captures, and attacks. And that is a way of calculating in chess. When you're trying to come up with a plan, a really great way of coming up with it is by always analyzing all the checks in a position. all the captures, aka, you know, capturing a piece, and all the attacks, which would basically mean threatening a piece or going for a fork, which means threatening two pieces at the same time. So that would be the next thing to look at in the middle game. And finally, you know, another really important thing and way of improving is by understanding what the best squares for different pieces are. So for instance, we can see in this position, I don't want to put my bishop there because it's really bad, but if we're going to look at where the best or how to improve my pieces, we can see that this bishop right here is right now blocked by two pawns. Now, if I didn't know about the rule of not putting my pieces on undefended squares, I would go there. But now that I know about that rule, I'm instead going to go ahead and try to improve that piece by pushing my pawn to c5 and opening up this diagonal for the bishop. Why am I doing this? Because now I'm going to be getting more squares for this bishop to be able to move around to. And the better your pieces are, the more your pieces are going to be able to coordinate into getting a better position. So endgames are finally one of the most difficult parts of the chess game, even though there's the fewest amount of pieces in endgames. So definitely would recommend you to learn some simple endgames. Now, I will say this, if you're a beginner, probably the endgame is the least important part of the game because a lot of your games will not reach the endgame, period. I mean, most games will be determined by a quick checkmate or by blundering a lot of pieces, but not by the endgame. But if you're trying to improve, I would recommend you learning endgames such as, for instance, this endgame, which is when you have a king and a pawn versus a king where there's opposition. I would definitely recommend you to learn rook endgames, very simple ones, but just start with the very, very, very simple endgames, which basically are endgames where there's very few pieces. For instance, rook endgames, which is one of the endgames that are the most common endgames. I think 50% of all endgames or something like that reach rook endgame. So do look a little bit more into that, and I will make specific videos about that. So let me know if you want to see some more endgame videos. I did do one that I think you should watch, and I'll link it down below so that you can see it. But in this video, I just wanted to go through what I think the most important thing to learn is and give you sort of a guide so that you can see or so you can know where to start in your chess studying. Now, I hope that this video makes you improve a little bit, and you know, I hope that this inspires you also to play some more chess. Thank you so much, Geology, once again for sponsoring this video, and thank you everybody so much for watching. Good luck with your chess journey, and let me know in the comments down below what your rating is. I want to know what your rating is, actually. I'm excited to know that. All right, I'll see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.